Hello everyone, welcome with the Karak with Mahreen. Okay, just kidding.
Do you think that in our culture, women care more about what their parents think than men do?
Lost your job or you got arrested or some shit is that. The first thing you'll be like, what will my mom say?
The thing about the West and the US is that because they don't focus on their actual problems, they just create their own problems. Radical feminists who say all men are bad and men should be eliminated from planet Earth. You need to sacrifice in a relationship. How will you ever be with a person if you always want exactly what you want and no other way? You can never be with a person that way. You need compromise and sacrifice.
And the world has treated men this way when the bare minimum a man does has not been rewarded.
What do you think is love?
The horror stories I've heard of people like going on dates, going on holidays, and then when they get married and live in and they realize that, oh, he's bipolar and he's a whole different personality.
Media has created this image that alcohol is cool and that if you don't do it, you are not cool.
Hello everyone, welcome to Decoding Quirks. I'm Aditi and today we have a really special guest with us, someone who's inspired me to start a podcast and someone who actually I've been wanting to collaborate with her for a while. So welcome Mahreen.
Thank you so much Aditi for having me. I'm so excited. I didn't know it was the inspiration for your
Of
podcast.
course.
I had no idea. Well, that's so exciting, but thank you so much for having me.
I'm glad that we actually got this done. Like we're
Yes.
sitting here and actually
And you're
talking.
going to leave today.
I'm going to leave
We're making
today.
the most before you leave. Yeah.
Imagine, like, that's the hustle culture. Like, you're recording till the last minute, like,
yeah.
4 hours before your flight. That's
Yeah,
insane.
Yeah, I love the commitment. Yeah, yeah.
No, but I actually did see a few of your videos, which went viral. And I was just like, maybe I should start this. And my intention was to start it just to get clients for my whole mental health aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it started, like, picking up and doing well, I'm like, you know what, I need to take this out and bring more guests, because I kind of do that in my sessions as well. I'm talking to someone and they respond back to me. Obviously, that's more deep.
Yeah.
So here it's more like,
More
okay,
casual, it's simpler, it reaches more audiences. Yeah. I
and
love
also
that.
from the sense of like, okay, we'll still talk about something that is intense, but it's a little light. It's a conversation.
Yeah, I love that.
But which reel I actually saw that went like the alcohol one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That was, I think until today, that's my most watched reel probably. Yeah.
Really?
Until today. So, yeah, I know. I think a lot of people found out about me through that reel. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the ultimate reel.
That is so true.
But what did you think about it? Like, what was your opinion on it?
So it was, I also heard it from an angle of like, okay, you're talking about your culture and Pakistan and alcohol. But what really stood out with me is like the fact that she's so confidently saying this, like, wow, right? Because if I had to tell people in Bombay and in India that, you know what, we don't need alcohol to have fun, they'll tell me to shut up. They will abandon me, because as a culture we've been raised with alcohol. Like it's the most acceptable poison that we, like, it's there. Like my grandfathers had it, my dad has it, my parents have it. It's there in all our weddings, it's there in all our parties. As you turn 21, you have your first drink.
So it's very much entrenched in the culture, but not all over India, right? I feel like, but do you think most of India though?
Not all over India for sure, but again, if you hear someone's husband drinking, it's not surprising. Like if you hear, like, even in a toxic family where the wife is like, oh, my husband drinks and this and that, it's not like, oh my God. It's like, oh, okay, so what do we do with it? It's not like, let's remove the problem. What do we do around the problem? Because it's so inherent.
Because it's normal, like it's just a part of the culture there.
It's a part of the culture.
The thing for me about alcohol is that even in that video, I know a lot of people say, obviously it was a cultural angle to it because I was bringing up South Asia and the East, but also not just culturally. For me, my personal opinion on alcohol, why do I hate alcohol, is purely because it creates an illusion of freedom. I don't like the concept that you are manipulating yourself into believing that that's freedom. That's what I don't like, and that's how I associate alcohol with. That's why I was so passionate in that video as well. So for me, it's not just cultural. It's definitely, I think, philosophical or even health aspect. Like World Health Organization just said that even a sip of alcohol that you have is terrible for you. Even a sip.
Yeah.
that could increase significantly your chances of cancer. So these type of things, for me, it's like, we know it's a poison. We know it's not truly the sense of freedom that we think it is, because you're losing control over your senses, but it's still so acceptable.
It's still so acceptable. You're absolutely right. And with, as you very well said, with alcohol, what happens is that because, I mean, it'll cause cancer, it has liver problems, diseases. It's technically a poison, which we're realizing today. But because it's so acceptable, no one is saying anything about it majorly.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if you're sitting with your family in a wedding and you're smoking a doob, or you're smoking a joint, or you're like shooting up some drug. It's not possible. But alcohol is acceptable.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so you can't do that. Like,
But I think that's what's shocking to me, is just the fact that when we know something is poisonous, we know something is so bad for your health, why is it that I, as a person, choose not to consume something that is a poison, that will kill me, that will deteriorate my health, that will harm my health, but I choose not to have it? Why is that so shocking for other people, especially in cultures where it's so acceptable, I guess.
and there are many cultures where it's very
Yeah, it's
acceptable.
mostly acceptable.
Like in Italy, you're always having a glass of wine with everything.
Yeah.
Like there are so many cultures where alcohol is acceptable, and where now I think also the Gen Zs are going away from it.
Going away from, okay, interesting. I don't know. I hear so many different perspectives on it, because if I look at Pakistan, for instance, Pakistan, it's a complete opposite, right? Alcohol is not at all something that we openly talk about, that we would consume. It's completely like prohibited. It's completely something that is like a taboo in our country, obviously because of religion as
Yeah.
well, mostly because of religion. But when I read stats and when I hear about what's happening in Pakistan, I do know that it's slowly becoming a problem amongst the youth. And so the Gen Z, the young people, they are actually starting to consume alcohol. Like, alcoholism is slowly becoming a problem there, but it's so hidden. Like, it's very hidden. You will not find information on it, but it exists in Pakistan.
That's so interesting, because it's the entirely opposite
Yeah.
in India, because we've been consuming alcohol for so long. Now, as you said, all the research is out, everybody knows the damage it can cause you. So, which is why now the youth is actually going away from it. There are so many Gen Zs, and I spend a lot of time in Bombay, but there are so many Gen Zs that prefer to like go for a Pilates class or like hike on the weekends, but they won't consume. And it'll be like, okay, we did it for like 1-2 years. We choose to not drink.
Okay, so you think it's like going down now?
It's going down now
Okay,
in the Gen Zs.
interesting.
In like, again, I'm also talking from a very like Bombay angle, like a very like metro city, where they were like, okay, we've done it enough. We've seen it enough. We've seen people like lose their consciousness. You've seen all the goods and the bads, and they've taken a decision. But do you think it's because one was allowed and one wasn't?
I think that when anything is restricted from you, you want to, if you have a little bit of a chance, you want to like open that door and explore as much as you can, which is unfortunate sometimes. That's what happens when you're too strict with people, when you're too restricted with people. So that's one. Number two is also, I just think like Gen Z, they see, or like youth, young people, they see what's happening in the West, like Western movies, even Indian movies. They see all these movies, all this content where alcohol is something so fun and you like let loose, you go to parties, it's such a fun thing. They think it's cool. Like, it's media has created this image that alcohol is cool, and that if you don't do it, you are not cool. So obviously people in Pakistan, the young people, are getting into it because of that. I don't think it's definitely not like prevalent. I don't think so. At least there's no stats on this. I couldn't find any stats on this because it's so hidden.
Yeah.
But I do know that it's happening.
It's picking up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's really like a whole different case in India. In fact, like just like you said, like in the movies and Bollywood, I feel like it does have a very strong influence on us. Now,
Yeah.
again, I'm from Mumbai, from Bombay. Bollywood is right there. Bollywood gets influenced by Hollywood. So I feel like a lot of our choices are around that. I think maybe 10-15 years ago, if you would tell someone that, oh, I'm living in with my boyfriend or I'm dating this guy, it probably would be a hush hush whisper situation. And now, like, I am an example. I have been living in with my partner for 4 years, and it's fully acceptable. I mean, it's a little bit harder to get houses on rent, but it's not impossible.
Oh, okay.
You will get like a house on rent, you're able to share this on Instagram with your parents, and like, you can't fake it for 4 years.
But it's just hard for me to believe that that's all of India.
Yeah, it's not all of India.
Yeah.
It is the metro cities. I'm also talking from a place of, I don't think I can speak for all India because
Yeah,
it's so
big.
varied.
Yeah.
It's so varied.
But I'm just trying to see what is the majority.
So I feel like in a country, I mean, again, I'm coming from a city that's a little bit more progressive than the rest. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure in like, if you go down to Kerala and all, it might still be a hush-hush situation. But the fact that it still exists as an option
Yeah, true.
in India, I'm surprised by it. Like, I'm on a daily basis, so like, oh my God, we're living in, and there's no problem. Like, no one has created a problem, and not just me. A lot of my groups are like, they're single mothers. People freeze their eggs. People are talking about like, like, see Karan Johar, for example. He has 2 kids from like surrogacy, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how often do you hear these
Yeah,
things?
definitely.
So I'm not saying all of India is doing it, but a decent amount is being progressive in that way now. And I think that comes from an influence of, Bollywood. Bollywood comes from an influence of Hollywood. And it's the content that you see.
It's just interesting to me that if the society is being so impacted by Bollywood, why isn't it getting impacted by like alcohol? Because alcohol is still very much a part of Bollywood. So that's why it's like, is alcoholism really declining in India? Maybe it's slightly lesser.
Yeah.
But is it really declining? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, it in the sense where if you would meet like 10 people, all 10 would have a drink. I won't say all 10 would binge, but all 10 would have a drink.
Got it.
But now when you meet
The quantity.
Yeah, now when you meet like 10 people, 2 will specifically be like, I don't drink.
Got it.
So people are choosing like better health for themselves. People are choosing, like, there are now non-alcoholic brands coming up. You get them on your quick commerce apps,
Yeah.
So that itself shows like
How
the
society
demand is
changing.
yeah. You go to whenever we go on to these apps that are there, you'll always see like non-alcoholic beers. You'll see like there are these new brands that have come up with non-alcoholic drinks. It's coming up because I think that there's that need in the market. People are choosing to not drink.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what, I think it exists in Dubai, where they have this coffee culture, third wave coffee culture kind of thing, where in a coffee shop they're just drinking coffee and raving.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
that
like coffee is like the beer of UAE in a way. Yeah.
So people are doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm also seeing that in India now, where they have like non-alcoholic events. So they'll have these, silent plays, or there's great music. You don't, like, it's a healing thing where you don't talk and all, but you can't, like, one of the reasons is that you can't get high in any way. No intoxicants, right? So there are more like non-alcoholic things. I mean, it's not a lot, but they're introducing it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely there's a growing demand
Yeah.
for it. I think that a lot of what happens in South Asia, and as you said, Bollywood is impacted by Hollywood. I think there's even a stat recently I was reading about how even in the West, younger people are consuming lesser alcohol than their like previous generations did. So it's probably an impact from there. Like, I think it just trickles down. Like, a lot of what happens in the West, unfortunately or fortunately, whatever, trickles down into South Asia, into the East, which I guess I would rather want us to be like making our decisions on our own. Like,
I agree.
yeah,
I
but
agree.
that's just the reality of it. Yeah.
100%. If it's acceptable in the West, it slowly starts to be
Comes
accepted.
over here. Like, even feminism. Like, obviously, I believe that in our culture, the concept of empowering women, giving women rights was there for the longest time. Like, this was not something new. But the concept of feminism was obviously came in later in the West. And then it trickled down over here where, feminism didn't exist. Only a few years ago, women got the rights to vote. But like in for instance, in Pakistan or in Islam, I'm talking about religion because it's based on religion. the right to vote or the right to own property, all of these rights have been there for us like for hundreds of years. Like that's not a
Yeah.
new thing for us. But we choose to think that it comes from the West.
Ah, interesting. I like that. I like that concept. Like with feminism, also, do you think like it's a fight more than like a fight against another gender, or you think it's about like just equal opportunity?
I think the root of feminism was equal opportunity, like men, women equal. We should be given equal opportunity, all of that, which obviously is like, why would anyone disagree with that? But because the thing about the West and the US is that because they don't focus on their actual problems, they just create their own problems. So they just create random problems that never isn't really a problem, and they make it and they turn it into the extreme. Every movement has always turned to the extreme, and that's what happened to feminism. Now they're like radical feminists who say all men are bad and men should be eliminated from planet Earth, which obviously doesn't make sense to
That is
me.
not possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, honestly, I think the fight has also, as you said, gotten like in the wrong aspect. So it's also called as white feminism, I think, at
Oh,
some
okay.
point,
I
where,
didn't know.
yeah, someone has told me about this, where it's called as white feminism, where you're fighting for the wrong thing, where you needed to fight for like equal pay. But now you're fighting for a seat on the bus, so you're fighting for ladies' night. And like now you're fighting for like trivial things that make us feel bad when we're actually fighting for the right thing.
Thing. Yeah, that's a
Right?
good point. Yeah.
So for me is like, because as a mental health coach, I've also spoken to so many women who are constantly stuck in terrible marriages. They are constantly being abused in marriages, and money has been taken away, or your money is used as a sense of control to not allow them to leave. And this is where like feminism comes into play. Like this is where we really need to fight for, like, you need to get what you're worth. You need to be able to have control over money. You need to be able to take decisions. You can't be controlled. And there are women on a daily basis that I speak to that are getting thrashed by their husband and going back because, oh, he loves me, or he said he's sorry. So this is where the real fight
That's a real problem. That's what we need to be fighting for. Yeah, exactly.
this is where the real feminism comes in. This is where the real fight comes in. And
Yeah.
then when someone like very meaninglessly talks about ladies' night and, fighting for a seat on the bus, and
It's
I feel bad. Like, I'm just like, what am I doing all of this for?
or yeah, like it's not these, and that's why people have created such a negative connotation with feminism, like such a negative impression of feminism, because it just seems like, oh, like women just want to take over the world, like
Yeah.
all the rights are only given to women, even though obviously that's not what women empowerment is.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's
I mean, when I started putting out my content, I didn't know that it will go into this direction. For me, it was mainly about, I want to just decode a problem, because my brand is called Decoding Quirks. When I'm talking to a client, you're decoding where the
I love
struggle is
that.
coming
Yeah.
from, right? So when I started decoding it, a lot of it came from like generational trauma plays a picture on it, and a lot of it came from like a sense of control, which came from men, but it didn't come from a place where this is what it like men are being bad about it. It's just that this was how life was, and we're trying to make a change. For example, the working corporate life, the 9 to 5, was never meant for women. It was designed for men based on their sleep schedule, their eating schedule, their lifestyle, their how tired they get, how much, like, based on all of that. Like men can intermittent fast, women can't, because there's enough research done on men, not on women.
yeah, even like the concept of sleeping 7 to 8 hours a day, that was done on men, and now research is saying for women they need 9 hours of sleep. So
Exactly. So the corporate lifestyle was made for men. Women are entering it because we need to still prove ourselves. We haven't yet proved ourselves. We are in that stage of, listen, take me seriously. So we have entered that lifestyle. And now a lot of women, and I'm sure you've heard this, a lot of women are suffering from PCOD. Because we are also living a man's life
yeah.
in a man's world. And that's where we're trying to like change a few things. So we're trying to like, listen, this doesn't work for us. Oh, don't be a crybaby. If you want to work, just work. Go to the kitchen, make a sandwich. Like the comments that, so when I talk about like real issues where, bro, like now research is saying that this actually doesn't work for us. We still need to make money. We need to like, so female-led businesses are doing it differently.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, this is the lazy way to work. You don't want to like. And then the comments that come about like
Really? That's the kind of comments you get on when you.
all the time. Like 90% of my comments are like men telling me how I need to be submissive, listen, go to the kitchen, make a sandwich, and stop crying, and like stop trying to be in a man's world. But now the sad part is like sometimes men are also raised that way.
Yeah, I just think like in our culture, sadly, like at least in Pakistan, I feel like men are raised to be insecure. And what do I mean by that is that they cannot stand another girl, another woman, maybe doing better than them or doing better in anything in general, like just performing really well. No, they only picture the woman as like this submissive. I think it is. I would like to believe that it's changing.
Yeah.
I would like to believe that, but I don't know. Like, I still think men are quite insecure in our culture. Like, it's very much it's very much prevalent, and that's why marriage scares me.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, I think it still exists in India, but and as you said, like I am seeing the change because again, I'm also talking from a very metro city that is really moved forward. I can see the change, but inherently, I can still see
Yeah.
that men are insecure.
Yeah, that's what I don't know how to explain. Exactly what you just said. That I know that they're not like.
No, you can't do this.
Yeah, I know they're not like that, but they're inherently like their belief systems is still the foundation of it is still that women are lesser than men in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good that you brought that up. If you were to actually decode the whole women are lesser than men, because at some point men need to be better than women, because if you are better than them, you are more successful. So for example, before we started rolling, I showed you a video of new content that I'm doing, right? Your response was like, oh my god, this is great, I can't wait for you to put that up. The same video when I've shown other men, because I showed it to like all my friends, my inner circle,
Yeah.
they were just like, yeah, to be honest, it's not that great, but the more you do it, you'll get better at it. Yeah. So, and I'm just like, we women are so wired to appreciate effort. We're just like, oh my god, yes, go girl, like do it, go put it up, you will like ace it, we'll see how you do. We like, for men, bare minimum is not enough because that's also the way the world has treated them.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Bare minimum is not enough. They need to be successful. That's when they'll get the attention and the validation and everything.
They need to be better. Like no matter what they're doing is not enough. That's what they're taught. Yeah.
And the world has treated men this way. When the bare minimum a man does has not been rewarded.
Yeah.
But the bare minimum sometimes that we do, we've like literally shot it. We've not even put up the video. But we're like, oh my god, yes,
Yeah,
go girl.
we're excited for the other person. Yeah.
We are rooting for bare minimum, and they are like, bare minimum is not. It has to be successful. Then so we're wired very differently.
I think it also comes down to people pleasing.
Yeah.
I do think that women are more female people pleasers than there are male people pleasers. Women are just naturally more people pleasing.
Why do you think so?
I don't know. I think obviously we know that biologically as well, we're more nurturing, we're more caring. We just biologically we do care a lot about the people around us. Yeah. So I think it potentially could come from there. So the one thing that I do want to say is that we were talking about how like women are like this, we're talking about some of the negative things about men and how in advancing the career world it's harder for women. It's also important to note that there are certain characteristics that women have that could potentially make it harder, like people pleasing. Like I feel like when you are, I know I've seen it in my team even, like some of the females in my team, it takes some time for them to truly say their opinion about something that we're creating. And I'm like, tell me what you think. Like, it's okay if you hate it. Like, just tell me what you think. So because of these kinds of things, it's also hard for women to progress in their careers. We're kind of diverting the topic right now, but I just wanted to say that. Yeah.
That makes sense. I think it is like harder for women at times to share their opinion, to be real, because it's also taken us a lot to come here. Like this opportunity is very new. Like not everyone's mom growing up was working and killing it in life and making money and being financially independent. we are just about seeing it. Like,
Yeah.
it's so new that you don't want this to be taken away from you. And it still feels like an opportunity. Like, dude, I got it. Like, I don't want to, like, mess this up in any way.
Yeah.
So I can also see why the people
That's a good
pleasing
point.
gets trickled down to even like a corporate life.
Yeah, because like, yeah, that's a good point because it has a lot to do with your upbringing. And if in your upbringing you always saw the men dominate and the men be very opinionated, and the women sometimes share their opinions every now and then, but mostly be like
Yes, men.
quiet.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, yes, women. So we call this as the good girl and the nice guy syndrome. So what a good girl does is she's wired, groomed actually. She's been groomed to believe that you need to be the reason to say yes to everybody, to make sure people are happy because of you, because one person needs to be the binding factor. Everyone plays roles, right? One is a provider, one is a caregiver, one is like, so everyone plays a role. So this is your role and this is your identity. So women have been groomed to believe that, okay, everyone should be happy for you, you need to take care of people. And I, like an educated person, has also fallen victim to this situation. I've gone to a friend's house and I've seen like a girl. She's like 2.5 years old. She's opening the pista shells, eating the pista, putting the shell in another bowl.
Bull.
And my first response was, "Oh my God, what a good girl!" And where I'm actually appreciating her upbringing, I also know that I'm a part of the problem where I am, and like the same thing my nephew does, you're just like, oh my God, what a macho boy. Like he's
Yeah.
just throwing things around and all.
Yeah.
He's being a boy. But
Exactly.
we are being a part of the problem where we're appreciating women so much for being so good all the time that suddenly now when they want to like stand up for themselves, they
It's
don't know.
hard. Yeah.
You don't know how to do it. You don't know how to set a boundary. You don't know how to like take care of yourself. You don't know how to even understand your emotion. So you rather just people please in that
Yeah.
situation also.
And it's like these little things, especially when you're growing up. It doesn't have to be so explicit. It could just be like little motivators that you're giving to the person. Like you're reinforcing that behavior with little comments that you make, right? So yeah.
And those little comments are like, and it gets wired so differently. It's like, my parents are happy when I am a good girl. I don't want to disappoint them because they're like the most important people in my life. So I'll continue doing these repetitive behaviors. And like generally with good girls, what we've seen is like they don't like to go against religion. I mean, now this is something that in most of my clients we're unlearning this pattern. They don't want to go against religion. They want to be great at their job. They don't want to say anything back to their bosses. They can't like stand up with friends. They can't like leave toxic marriages or relationships. They can't like get a divorce because what will their parents say? It trickles down into like the most important aspects of your life, and that can be a little scary.
Do you think that in our culture women care more about what their parents think than men do?
Yeah. Yeah. I think like women do care a lot about what their parents think because it's also like, unfortunately, there is still a huge part of our culture that still think that women are burdens on their parents. So it's still like, you are my prized possession going to another family. My upbringing is going to be judged while you stand up for yourself, while you create a fight, while you don't create a fight. It's still, like my
Very
judge.
much a
Yeah.
yeah.
So women are like thinking that a lot. I know men, on the other hand, are
They
like,
do as well.
they do as well. Like they
Yeah.
are like full mama boys at
Yeah.
some point, like. So they do that, but I think that the thought process is a little bit different there.
Yeah. Like what I'm trying to think is like, do men in our culture think about what their parents would think when they're making decisions, like when they're making life decisions? Do they worry that, oh my god, my parents won't be happy, so I shouldn't do this? Because I know women do that a
Yeah,
lot.
women do
Like
that a
our
lot.
self-esteem is so dependent on what our parents think of us. It's crazy. No matter how much you try to unlearn that, I mean, of course you'll get there, but it's just that it takes a while. But for men, I'm sure it is a very much big thing for them as well. But I think it's a different mindset. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
crack what that is.
No, it is a different mindset. And I think that was like, for a woman, she's still, I don't know how to say this without being mean, but she's still a daughter for the rest of her life.
Life.
But with a man, with a boy, he becomes the man of the house. You understand, like how the power dynamics kind of change
Changes. Yeah.
somewhere, where it's like, oh, I'm not your son anymore, but I'm also the man of the house. I'm also the provider and the protector. So
Interesting.
somewhere the dynamic kind of changes. So
Interesting.
now, like, the decision makings kind of change in that aspect. Yes, inherently, emotionally, they might be worried, but is it shown more? Probably not. Like, a
Yeah.
girl is the girl for a
Of the
very long
house.
time,
Yeah.
where there are a lot of benefits that come with it. But like, this validation thing can be a huge part. Like, you can be in any country away from your parents, and someone has, like, you lost your job or you got arrested or some shit is that, the first thing you'll be like, what will my mom say? Like, what will my parents say? Like, oh my, how will I explain this back home?
That's so funny. I think that definitely boys probably think that too, but maybe not as much. But what you just said is so true. Like, I think the whole mindset of how we're brought up is so different because women are brought up with the mindset um, to please their parents, to do the best they can, to build a good family, it's
Yeah.
that people pleasing thing.
Yeah.
When men are raised and brought up with the mindset that which comes with a lot of stress for sure, which is like I'm gonna be the man of the house, like I'm gonna be so, like I have all these responsibilities, like there's so much on me, there's so much pressure on me.
Yeah.
I need to do the best I can monetarily mostly. And also that's the problem because there's so much emphasis put on money towards men that men in our culture don't know how to handle their emotions. They don't know how to,
Yeah.
like, just say basic, like express their feelings in a very basic manner.
Yeah. And because, as you very rightly said, the entire perception is all about, like, being a provider and being a protector. They don't know how to deal with emotions. And when you do not know how to deal with your emotions, you're going to have a breaking point. At some point, you have a breaking point.
Yeah.
And that can be very, like, in today's day and age, the breaking point is coming much more earlier because of the hustle culture that we're in as well.
True.
Right? Like, at least.
And because people are talking about it more as well.
Yeah, 100%. Like, today, everybody has a job and a side hustle. Like, everyone has a full-time job and they're a content creator. Like, everyone's doing something or the other.
Yeah.
Like, the hustle is really hard now. Like,
Yeah.
back in the day, they would still, like, go to the shop and come back and have that small window to relax because it was acceptable to, like, relax. Like, it was okay. It was awarded to chill. But not today. So, anyways, like, men do not get that time to process also. The little time that they had back in the day, no one has that time to process.
yeah.
You're just like, I have to make the money. I have to, like, make it
Yeah.
in life. I'll do all of this later. And later is also a very scary word. Like, especially, like, with men. I mean, we've also grown up where, I've witnessed a long distance marriage. My dad is in the Gulf. My mom is there. Like, oh, I'll spend time with the kids later. I'll, like,
Yeah.
know.
That's harmful. That can be quite
Yeah,
harmful.
yeah. And, like, because you want to, like, sort out today, so you are bartering something. When you're when you're putting all that time to get in money, you are bartering some form of feelings, connection. And, like, the only way you can connect is through feelings.
Oh yeah, 100. Yeah, like I think the best way that anyone can, I think the best marriages as well that they saw were when both the partners had a shared goal,
Yeah.
had a shared vision, and because of that shared vision, obviously they're going through similar emotions, similar feelings. They're able to express that. Like when you have a share, even for instance, the best way for you to make friends is if you volunteer. Like there was a study done on this because you're all volunteering and you're working on the same goal and the same vision, right? I think that sometimes that vision is what's lost. Sometimes we're going a
No,
little
that's
too
fine.
philosophical, but that vision is sometimes lost in marriages.
Yeah.
Where
Sorry.
the man is constantly thinking about, okay, I need to make a lot of money, I need to do this, I need to that. The woman is sometimes forgotten in the
Yeah.
relationship where she wants more time with the husband. She wants to, obviously emotionally connect with the husband. So you can see they both have like these different goals, these different visions, even though ultimately probably they want to be happy, like that's obviously, but they're not really able to come
Connect.
together and
Yeah.
connect. Yeah, that was too complicated, but
No,
yeah.
but yeah, no, that's actually not, like, that's very true, because I always say this. we hear this line called opposites attract, right? And I think that's one of the most butchered statements today, because it came from a much larger meaning. But obviously, it doesn't look good on Instagram if I have like a 4-paragraph explanation. So you have to bring it down to the hook, which is opposites attract. And like, you don't, a vegan eater and a meat eater are not going to align together because their value systems are very different. But someone who's they're aligning on the same value system, but you're a technical person and I'm an emotional person, maybe we will balance each other out. Our goals are the same. I can be in a car, you can be on a bike, but we're reaching the same place. I might take a slight detour here, you might take a slight detour there, but we get to the same place. That is what opposites attract mean.
Yeah, exactly.
But people have not understood this aspect and we're like, oh no, like two opposites will help each other grow. And I'm like, no, that's like a disaster. Like,
the foundation needs to be the same.
Exactly.
Those values that you were saying needs to be the same.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And I think like that's one of the biggest mistakes that people are making, is that they're not aligning on their value system.
Yeah, sadly.
If you are able to talk about the deep things, but can you? Like, are you functional enough to talk about the deep things? Do you even know what you want?
Yeah.
What is the purpose of this marriage or this life or this relationship? Do you even know it? Or are you just giving a generic answer of, oh, I need a companion?
Yeah. That's interesting. Maybe we can dive into talking a little bit more about marriages in India and Pakistan, because when you just said about how, do you even know what you want out of this marriage? Do you even know what your goal is out of this? This reminds me of the concept of arranged marriages. Why? I'll tell you. Because even though I don't know if I would ever do an arranged marriage, but in an arranged marriage, obviously the parents set you up. And when the boy and girl talk to each other, they know they're talking with the intention of marriage. And so because of that, they ask all the right questions. They dive in to all the serious questions, like, what do you want? How many babies do you want? How many this do you want? Like, if I work, how would you feel? If I do this, how would you feel? They ask all the right questions, and all those important questions and answers that you need to know before you get married are usually answered when you do an arranged marriage. At least now. I know in the past they didn't talk.
Yeah, before it was
nonsense.
more dowry and money aspect.
Yeah, in the past, yeah. But now I'm talking about like how the modernized version of arranged marriage is where the parents set you up, but the boy and girl talk. Like, they actually meet, they chat, they call, they do everything, and they and get all the most serious questions about marriages answered before they get married. Yeah. So I think I'm kind of shifting the topic
like
here.
Modern arranged marriages are actually the middle ground of both, you know, like it's verified by the parents, but I get to have a choice in this entire arrangement. And I think that was something that was missing back in the day, or in the traditional arranged marriages which still exist. So there was a stat that said that 60% of love marriages end in divorce, but only 5% of arranged marriages end in divorce. And this is not a flex to arranged marriages. This is actually a flex to probably love marriages, because when the love ends, the marriage ends and you can go back and rebuild a different life. But in arranged marriages, there's no love conversation. It's like, we are committing to each other till death do us apart. So I commit to provide for you. I commit to take care of your children. I commit to being there. I commit to family values. And if love is there, then bonus.
So I don't know how I feel about that, because like, what do you mean by if love is there, if love is not there? Like, what do you think is love? Because people just think love is that chemistry where you get butterflies and you're attracted to that person. But obviously, as you grow and as you get used to the person, I think that attractiveness will probably go down. And I don't think that's wrong. Like, that just means you've moved from that phase of just liking each other because like that physical connection, and you're moving on to a more like deeper, a less superficial period to a more deeper period. So I think the whole concept that, in arranged marriage your love is never there, or in love marriages you have love but then your love ends, I don't really like that, because that just creates this image that marriage is just you love you have this like romantic connection 24/7 for the rest of your life. That's obviously not, at least from my belief, that's not what a marriage is.
That's not wrong, but like you very rightly said that you move on to a deeper connection.
Yeah.
So that is love. when you are attracted, you fall in love, you feel like you want to be so close and vulnerable, and I can tell you everything about me without any sense of judgment, and you get me. And then it moves on to something deeper. Like, it can be monotonous, it can be less attraction, it can be like you're my permanent roommate, it can be all of that, but it has to move on. But when it starts with just that, then it feels like it'll reach a point where it feels like a burden, because
But
you've not experienced
that connection.
the initial like love connect, the vulnerability connection.
So
That's very
when
important.
you're saying arranged marriages, when it starts with that, like, what do you mean? What do you think arranged marriages start with?
So I think with arranged marriages, it starts with the fact that we can live together. We are our we our values align, our financial status aligns, where we like to go for a holiday aligns. Like, we align. It starts with that, and sometimes it stays that. So if you fall in love, like, you're able to share that space of vulnerability, it's that's when they'll be like, oh my god, now after 2 years of being married, people will start falling in love. And you've heard such stories. It's like, but otherwise people will stay together. In arranged marriages, people will stay together because you have chosen to be with each other, because it aligns and it makes sense, right? So people are doing that, and it's not again, the modernized arranged marriage still is so much better and has it kind of gives like women a little bit more power to choose. But in a traditional arranged marriage, sometimes the woman doesn't have the power to choose.
I think in traditional arranged marriages, especially in the past, I think both men and
And
women
women didn't have a power,
like,
yeah.
And it's not that. I feel like they didn't even realize they didn't have the power, because they were just like, okay, yeah, I'm getting married. My parents chose this person. Let's do it. Like, they wouldn't even think that, oh, I don't have a choice. In a way.
Yeah.
And like they didn't think that was a problem. You know what I mean? But when I talk about marriage now, where you're saying that in arranged marriage, it starts with the concept that you just want to, I can live with that person, so I'm gonna get married. That is not the reason to get married.
That is not the reason to get married.
Yeah, like that is, and that can happen even with love marriages. Like, you can even meet someone and just go for the bare minimum and think, okay, like, this person kind of understands me. Like, I think, okay, let's get married. You know, that can even happen with love marriages. That in itself is not what marriage is. That's not the right way to get married. You know what I
But that's
mean?
also why like 60% of love marriages end in divorce, is because of that. Because you can fall out of love even in a love marriage. And that's not a reason to get married. Exactly. And that's why I also feel like, and that's why, again, coming back to like the Bombay aspect of it and the Mumbai aspect of it, we are seeing so many people living in together. So it's like, is that, I mean, I'm trying it out too, so I question myself too about it. Like, a lot of people ask me, like, why aren't y'all getting married? And I'm like, but I feel married. I have everything about being married, So I'm not sure what am I going to get out of it? I know it'll come to me, and I know I want to do it, but I'm not getting that push yet. So I'm not sure what am I going to get out of the whole marriage deal that I'm not getting out of it now.
So can I ask you a question? Why did you guys move in together? Like, what was the conversation you guys had before you moved in?
Okay, so when we moved in together, when we decided to be a live-in couple, I think I was also just tired of dating. When you're in your 30s, you're just like, you go on so many bad dates, and you don't really know a real person out of those 4 hours. You can go for a trip with a person, and like the horror stories I've heard of people like going on dates, going on holidays, and then when they get married and live in, and they realize that, oh, he's bipolar and he's a whole different personality, and like proper mental health disorders that can come out. But I'm like, the only way to really know a person is to live with the person. And I felt like for me, that's more deeper. To doing the mundane shit is more deeper. Like, I want to know how you take the garbage out. I want to know how you load the dishwasher. I want to know like who will cook breakfast when one of us is sick. Like, these things means love to me more than you taking me to like a fancy cavo or something like that. And I think like those things I maybe it was nice in my 20s, but it lost its meaning after a while.
And then when you did decide to live in with each other, did it just kind of like happen, or was it something that you both were like, okay, let's do this?
I think for me, I was shifting houses, so it was more like the most obvious choice. So it's
Got
like
it.
when you're making the next like house shift, or everyone's renewing their rent at some point, and it's like, okay, we are anyway spending so much time together. This is the most logical step, because that also gives me the aspect of, okay, can he make a good financial decision? Living together is also a good financial decision, which also shows me how you are as a human going forward, right? Like, like paying two separate rents is really dumb for our own future. So, living in together just came in as that concept of, I'm tired of going on dates. I want to be in the house. I want to live a real life with you. And that can only happen when you live together. And then when you start doing it, you can't stop. So that's why you just move in.
So for the reason why I'm asking these questions is because I was like, the way you said that, there are so many horror stories of people who get married and then see the person, and that's so scary, right?
Very scary.
And I know that
And it's
definitely
happened with a lot of my friends.
I
as
know
well.
that happens, but the question is, how often does that happen? Like, what percentage of people who get married and live in after their marriage or live before the marriage, who ends up breaking their marriage sooner or like more, And so I was trying to find this information.
Yeah.
It's mostly in the West, so I don't know how it is in India, Pakistan, but in the West, what they found is live-in relationships usually end up in divorce more often than than if you lived with the person after marriage. Does that make sense?
True. I also feel like somewhere age has a factor to this.
Like if you're older,
If you're older and you start living with a person,
you're more mature.
yeah,
so
you're more, you don't want to take a lot of shit at some point. You're able to be like, okay, this is not for me, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm financially independent, I'm emotionally independent.
I can just leave.
I
yeah.
can just leave. And
Yeah.
I think when you're younger and you get like married, it's still somewhere like, okay, I'm able to adjust more, I'm able to compromise more. And I'm not even saying adjust and compromise as like a flex in this way. In some places it's a great thing, but in some places it's not. So
yeah.
it's subjective here.
Yeah.
So I think like when you're younger and you do it, the chances are lesser
of you leaving the relationship.
Yeah.
I think like the stats you brought up about the what was it?
Yeah,
marriages, 60% are love
marriages end in divorce. Yeah.
Like, for instance, I think India and Pakistan, both of them, the amount of divorces that happen, only 1% of marriages in Pakistan end up in divorce. Only 1%. And when you think of that, you're like, wow, like, we don't get divorces. That's great. And then in the US, it's like the opposite. There's a significant amount of people who get in divorces. Now, the way I see it, I don't see either situations as a good thing.
As a good thing, yeah, exactly.
Because I think both of what I've seen are the extreme. What I've seen in Pakistan is that a lot of people don't get divorces because they're stuck in the marriages. Because even if the husband cheats on you, you stay in the relationship because you don't have the financial resources to move out. And because divorce is a taboo. It's still a taboo. No matter what people say, it's still a taboo.
There's still judgment around it.
It's changing, but it's still a taboo.
Yeah.
Just to finish the point, that's Pakistan. But when you look at the US or the West, where divorces are so common, why that's also a problem is because when you were talking about sacrifice and compromise, that's not a bad thing. You need to sacrifice in a relationship. Like, that is, how will you ever be with a person if you always want exactly what you want and no other way? You can never be with a person that way. You need compromise and sacrifice. So I feel like because divorce is such an open option that, like, it's fine, I can get a divorce, like, if it feels like that, that's why people don't even try enough. They're just like, okay, like, fine, this is not working for me, I'm just gonna, they don't try enough. And I think that's the problem. Like, I've seen both of the extremes, and I haven't seen, maybe in Europe where it's a little more, I think in Europe people don't even get married. They just
common law or something, it's
yeah,
called,
I don't know, but I think most of them just live in, they're the most countries in the world where people have live-in relationships. But
but you're not wrong when you're saying that. Like, sometimes when it's too much of an option and it's so freely available, where there is no someone holding you accountable, I don't even want to use judgment over here, but someone holding you accountable, you'll go ahead and do this so many times before you're even prepared to actually be in a marriage. So where Yes, you need to sacrifice. Yes, you need to compromise. I think why the word compromise triggers women so much is because women needed to do the
Yeah.
compromise.
It triggered me a lot
Yeah,
growing up.
yeah. So women needed to do the compromise. Now, when we say that there's compromise in a marriage, it means like you walk 40%, I'll walk 40%. The rest we'll figure out who's capable enough to do it, to do that extra
I
walk.
love that. Yeah.
Right? That is compromise. Until that narrative doesn't get shifted, that word can be very triggering.
Yeah.
You know, the sacrifice and the compromise. Immediately, it's like, no, no, I don't want to do it. I'd rather be alone. I'm not into this, you know?
Because when girls are growing up, all the word that they hear all the goddamn time is you have to sacrifice when you're gonna get married. Women have to sacrifice more than men. Like I cannot even count the amount of times I've heard that growing up. So I completely get why that's like triggering, because it was definitely for me.
Yeah.
But I just feel like now, once I've started studying this more and understanding like what happens in other relationships abroad, in the West as well, I I've learned that it's not a bad thing, but it's just that women shouldn't be the only ones doing it.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
Women shouldn't be the only ones sacrificing and compromising. It has to exist. Like a proper compromise has to exist. But it has to be both ways. Both
Yeah.
genders need to learn it. And I mean, again, I'm also coming from this place. So whenever I do talk about like men and not like, you know, not having their, like having that sense of power and control and, you know, all of that, I get a lot of, I've lost a lot of friends through this content creation. Lost a lot of like male friends through this because they'll be like, oh, Aditi just hates men. And I'm like, it's fine. Like, I was like, dude, you don't know the clients I deal with on a daily basis. You don't know the decoding I'm doing. Like, even skinny culture, I can bring it down to like how men were in charge of like the Vogue magazines and like the pictures that go in. And then, you know, all of our perceptions are coming from this. Even if women
That's
are
so interesting.
like, it's a lot. Like, it's somewhere it does come down to it because men started running the world faster earlier. First, like, you know, we are just coming into the picture. So because I do that, it doesn't mean I hate all men. So it's not all men, but it's always a man as well that is included in some of these, like, whatever we hear, all these assaults and everything on a daily basis. Your safety, when we are unsafe in a place, we're unsafe not because I'm worried that you will look at me. I'm worried that a man is looking at me with like really terrible eyes. So
And it's also a man who will then blame the woman for being in that situation.
100%. So while I say all of this, I'm still in a relationship with a man. I still have my father. I still have male best friends. I still chill with my friends' husbands. It still exists, you know, but like the men who take responsibility knowing that because of us, because of our gender, women feel unsafe, so we need to go that extra mile to make them comfortable. These are the ones who are actually shamed also sometimes for not being man enough.
Simp.
Yeah. Exactly.
The way I said it. Yeah. It's just like,
You said it like like the men would have roasted each other. Wow, I was trying
The
to
way
make
it
such a
came
serious,
out of
that
me.
was trying to make such a serious point, and you were just like simp.
look, I'm just saying
Yeah.
that that's what people say. I'm not calling them
No,
simps.
I know. But yeah, I'm just like, you know, that they also get shamed into being nice is a problem for them. So sometimes they get bullied into being the rowdy men, you know, and that's crazy to think about.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, like good men exist and we have them around.
Yeah, definitely.
Just saying.
I think, I mean, I completely agree with what you said, that of course they, like, good men exist. It's not all men.
Yeah.
I just think it's so crazy that we have to have this conversation because it's not,
You know-
we're not saying anything revolutionary. Like, this is something that's should be understood. You know what I mean? Like,
You'd be surprised to think about like, and I also feel like that's coming from a place of where we're in Dubai, where we, like, while we're shooting this in Dubai, you've grown up here, I've lived like half my life here. We are, and I'm using this word not loosely, but we are privileged enough to be in a place that, you know, accepts men and women equally, that has women's safety, that, you know, allows women to like whatever, drive around, like equal pay, whatever, all of that. Now there are other places, especially in India, and I can like talk for that, where women are not allowed to do these things. Women feel what we are feeling, and just to hear two women talk about this is empowering for them, because
True.
they don't even have that friend circle that will
Allow
allow
them to have those conversations. Yeah.
and that vulnerability and that space. So we're not really doing this for each other. We're doing it for those other women over there who really, really need to hear this. Where it's okay. It's okay to like, not compromise so much. It's okay to stand up for yourself. It's okay to, like do something for like create your own life. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like,
Is this sad for me to, because I know I've literally seen in my own family scenarios where women have stayed in relationships, or they're forced to stay in relationships because they just couldn't leave for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Like there are many reasons for it, but yeah, it's just crazy for me to think that still exists, and
yeah.
that we have to have this conversation. Like, yeah, I mean, I think I'm definitely so privileged. There's so much privilege that my experience that I come with, and that I will move forward with. Like when I get married as well, I know that I will have a lot of privilege, in the sense that if I do want to leave, I know that I could, even though hopefully that would not happen, obviously.
Yeah.
But like, I know I have that, which makes me feel happy and more secure and confident. I just can't imagine the other women,
Who don't have it.
who don't have that. Yeah.
People can't allow their daughters to come back. Like there are so
Yeah.
many cases where the daughters come back and the father has committed suicide. And like, all
That's
of it's
crazy.
crazy. So when you say that you feel safe, happy, blessed and secure for doing it, a lot of that comes from upbringing as well,
Yeah.
right? The support that you have from your friends and family
Yeah.
plays a huge role, because every time you see a toxic marriage, every time you see a sad scenario of that sort, the woman just wants her friends and family to be like, yeah, man, this guy sucks. Like,
Yeah, to
it's
support
like, please,
you.
can you hear me? Please, can you see? Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Like,
Yeah.
and some of the times the family and friends do not see it.
Yeah.
And the woman is called crazy,
Yeah.
right? In this,
Like, I so wish that we could find like data and stats on how much domestic abuse happens in Pakistan or in India. It's crazy how little information there is, because women don't
yeah.
speak up. Like, the thing is, domestic abuse is even one slap. Like, even one slap on a woman, that's domestic abuse. But no women, like, if you just get one slap, they'll be like, okay, it's just a slap. Like, they wouldn't.
Yeah.
And there's even a movie about that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they wouldn't actually report that, or that will never come in those numbers. That's why I hate it when, and I had a conversation before on one of my podcasts where the person was saying that in our culture, domestic abuse is like the lowest compared to other countries. But I'm like, is that number even accurate?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I wish we would have, accurate numbers to actually showcase what is happening in our countries, but we don't.
We don't.
Because, yeah.
And as I said, like, because of my profession, I hear so much of this happening, where like the woman's getting thrashed, and then the only thing that they'll say is I love you or I'm sorry, and everything is forgiven. These are the women that will move countries to be with a man, and like it's still continuing. And the domestic abuse, even friends and family, if you go back and be like, he slapped me, it'll be like, how badly?
Oh my God. What
That's the
is-
response. Not like, oh my God, no, this is
That's
not allowed.
crazy.
It's
That's
like,
crazy.
as you said, one slap, it's okay.
Oh my God. I can't
Can't relate.
I can't
Can't
accept
relate.
that. Like,
Yeah.
how can someone accept that? And, like, no, I'm not talking about the woman. I'm talking about, like, the families.
The families,
accepting that.
Because it's so if you think about it, it's a very small situation to deal with in the moment. Do I deal with this one slap right now, in this moment, which feels meaningless because it's already in the past, it's already happened? Or do I break my relationship with my son-in-law, create drama with the in-laws, bring the girl back, deal with the neighbors talking, deal with society telling you, deal with the relatives telling you that you didn't give a good upbringing and now your daughter is divorced? You can see the amount of layers that someone needs to deal with. And I'm not saying this is why you shouldn't be doing it. I'm just like, that's the thought process. It's so exhausting that you just deal with the first slap and then you're like on your like
Yeah.
2000.
Yeah, sadly,
Sadly, that's how it is.
At the same time, I think because we're talking a lot about what women go through, I do know that
Yeah.
I guess it's not just as commonly talked about what men go through in relationships, because I know that especially now, women, it's not that they're like, I don't like this word like high maintenance, low maintenance, like this is ridiculous, but I do know that because we are growing to completely eliminate the concept of compromise and sacrifice, we want to completely remove it from the dictionary. That, like, there's a lot of women gold diggers out there. Like, there's a
Oh my
lot.
God, I was talking about this earlier as well in my podcast, which was like, so this concept of gold diggers, right? Now, for me, where it started off, like if you've done the like the decoding and the research and stuff like that, is that women started asking for their worth. Eventually, when they started getting divorced, they would take like the maintenance or the alimony and all of that.
Yeah.
Because now you're at a economic like inequality, right? Like, I've spent 5 years with you, now I'm going to lose out on 5 years of a job. That means I have to start at a lower position and all of that. So people like get their money through alimony and maintenance law and all of that.
Normal, yeah.
Yeah, so now it starts from there, like when a girl asks for her worth, and this could be like in divorce, it could be like on a first date. Like, you'll be like, okay, I want to go to a decent place, because I am not checking if you can take me to a decent place today. What I'm checking is that it's like an interview kind of thing. Like, I'm seeing who you are as a person going forward. Is this a life I'm choosing with you? Right now, where that was the intention for us women, while we were going on our first dates, while we were like living with people and like getting married. Unfortunately, there have been some women where the memo has not been passed down. It's like the reason why you go on your first date is to analyze if this person is ambitious, this person has manners, he's a gentleman, he's or has all these values that you need to see the receipts of today, so that it matters like 10 years down the line. But this memo has become like a Chinese whisper and has gone down into this one line of like, oh, you should be treated like a queen, and if you don't, demand it. So that's the problem. That's where like the whole gold digging aspect has come from, because some women didn't understand the memo and they are gold digging, where the other people who have understood it are assumed as gold diggers.
That's a very good point. Yeah. I think it has a lot to do with social media, as you said, like, because obviously like you see all these clips of women being like, demand your right, and there's nothing wrong with that. What in like in the foundation of it, there's nothing wrong with that. But when a girl who hasn't fully developed her own opinions and like moral compass, values, all of that, so when she sees that, she's like, it boosts ego
and makes them make wrong decisions.
Exactly. And they're just like, oh, I'm a woman, like I
have to ask for my right.
Yeah,
be treated like a princess.
Yeah, like I see a lot of girls, unfortunately these days, who are
promoting that language
like that. Yeah, but there's such a deeper meaning to it. It's not what you just see. That's the harm of these short clips that we see, honestly. Yeah, unfortunately. We're like a part of the problem.
Just like but to watch the entire video, get onto YouTube.
So, but that's a good point.
We actually are a part of the problem. Even if we do not like educate the other women going forward, they are going to continue doing this in a more superficial aspect versus like, hey, I'm just reading the receipts here. I'm just trying to collect the receipts of this date to see that, are you ambitious? Are you like, do you have manners and all of that?
I think like the whole idea of like demand your right, know your value, know your worth, I think that is definitely important. But in order to do that, have you developed yourself in that manner?
Are you treating yourself rightly?
Yeah.
Like, are you taking care of your mental health, your physical health, your wellness?
Exactly. Then like, I know that if I want like a certain kind of man who has a certain level of intellect, like I want someone who's super smart, I want someone who's super intelligent, who I can have good conversations with. But in order for me to do that, can I even have those kind of conversations to start with? So even though I know that I want to demand my worth and my value, and I know I have worth, of course every human being has worth, but if I want to reach that level that I want out of a man, do I also have it? Like, that's the question women don't ask.
So I don't know where I heard this line, but I think it might be the Daniel Sloss video or something, where he was like, if you love yourself like 20% and somebody comes and loves you 30%, you are going to be crazy about that person. But that also means that you are getting 70% toxicity.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? And eventually it's not going to balance out. So if you love yourself like 70, 80%, because we are never at 100 all the time, and someone comes along and loves you that 70, 80, 90%, you will appreciate that. You know, you won't settle for less. And that's where the meaning of, you know, demand for your worth comes from, because we don't have our own worth. And like you said, we have not taken our time to realize, like, what do we like, who we are, what our values are. Someone will come around and give us just a little bit more.
And we're happy with it.
And we're happy with that. And that's what I'm saying. It's like 70% toxicity.
Yeah.
And like, that's really tough to deal with.
Wow. That's such a good quote.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's such a good quote. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot that we could discuss in this.
Exactly. There's a lot to actually realize. Like, it's also, I feel like age is one thing, because you've seen a different life and I've seen a different life, and you know, from you from Pakistan and I'm from India, you're kind of like, oh, there are this narrative and that narrative, and even the way you word a few things is like, okay, but you're so compassionate towards it. And like, so I think that was also really interesting to see that, you know, you took this topic and we spoke
and we
about
the conversation really evolved like into all these different like
but we spoke about men and women, like we didn't like just stay on one topic, and I feel like that's really like interesting.
Yeah,
we should do this. Balanced. We should do this again.
Do we have more time, or
I have to get a flight. I have to catch a flight.
It's 12:20. Yeah. It's been more than an hour.
Yeah, if I have to like get home, pack my bag.
Yeah, makes sense. Do you think we covered everything?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think we covered, like, we'll get some stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
Like, we didn't cover exactly what we thought we would.
But I also feel like that's what like girl conversations are. Right? We start with one thing and then we get to like something even better.
Yeah. Right? Okay, so you're good?
Yeah. Anyways, okay. All right. Thank you so much for being here. Please like, follow, share, subscribe. We have individual pages and we'll put that here in the YouTube, and see ya.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.